Welcome back, troops. Let's tab 59. So the government has announced, this is a great one. I'm so pleased I'm doing this one. I think this is hilarious. So the government's announced that they're going to call up, let's get this right. They are going to increase the reserve liability call-up age for regular reservists across all three services. They're going to increase the call-up age from 55 to 65. They're going to do the Armed Forces Bill next year, 2027. Why? Well, it's obvious. They're saying they've got to ensure that we are prepared for war. And that, regular reservists, right? I think I spoke about this before. When you join the armed forces, you sign up, and after your service, you've got a reserve call-up liability. It has been used. I believe they used it, they called it, I think it was voluntary, and I think it was in the 80s. It might have been on one of the big NATO exercises in 84, around that time. I sort of remember loads of reservists coming out to Germany. But that was voluntary, I think. I think they got a letter. I don't think it was compulsory. But anyway, you've got a reserve liability when you leave the forces. I don't know if you can opt out of it, but what used to happen was, certainly when I remember, people would leave the armed forces, certainly if you'd served less than 12 years with the colours. So say you'd done 3 or 6 years, maybe 9 years, you would have a reserve liability up until you'd completed 12 years of regular service and your reserve bit, unless you went into territorial forces or reserve forces, Army Reserve. So that's how it used to be, but I think that's all changed. Whether you can opt out or not, I don't know. We haven't seen the full detail of the bill as yet because it's not been announced in its entirety. So why are they doing it? Well, our recruitment is terrible in Britain at the moment, in the UK. Recruiting's terrible for various reasons. Younger people have seen that veterans aren't looked after. They're seeing the money ain't great. The opportunities ain't great. They've seen, also young people have seen how veterans have come back from recent conflicts like Afghanistan and Iraq and how they've been treated, the homeless veterans, etc., PTSD. They've seen all that and they thought, not having that detail. So that's put them off from joining. And of course, retention's terrible. Those soldiers, sailors, airmen are going in, doing a few years and thinking, this is a bit naff. And they're sacking it. They can't hold them in the forces. So recruiting's terrible, retention's terrible. And of course, when the government started talking about the possibility of this, what was it? Civilian army and all this, talk of conscription, and they've even mentioned the gap year thing. I did a video on that. The conscription thing, they've put their toe in the water, the government have, and they've seen that there's no stomach for that. You've only got to look at the comments in some of the videos I've put about conscription, where people have gone, no chance, I'm not doing anything for this government. So young people aren't interested in general. And I get that, I understand that. It's a different world we live in. And a lot of the parents don't want their kids to go off either. So they've looked at all that and they've thought, what else can we do? Well, we can build up our Army Reserve, what used to be the Territorial Army. They want to build that up. That's not doing very good either. So they thought, what else can we do? Well, we can always call up our regular reservists. At the moment, we can call them up to the age of 55. But let's change the goalposts. Let's extend that by 10 years to 65. Now, roughly, that'll equate to about, if they were to call people up to the age of 65 for warlike preparations, that'll boost them up by about 95,000 people. 95,000 across all three services. That's a fair old chunk. Is there any appetite for that with veterans? You let me know in the comments. So, here's the thing. It's not going to be a dad's army as such. We're not, forget that detail, because they're certainly not going to use people of that age. I'm talking now 55 plus. They're not going to use those sort of people in offensive combat roles. They're not going to put them into infantry battalions or into the artillery or into the armoured units. I can't see that happening because, well, most of the services are combat engineers. There's a lot of roles in the armed forces, not just infantry and that, but roles that it's a young man's game or a young person's game. You can't be in those sort of units. So where are they going to put you? Well, they'll probably put you in IT or logistics. Now, yes, you have to be fit in all the armed, whatever role you've got in the armed forces, you've got to be fit. But let me tell you, there's loads out there that ain't. You've all seen them, you veterans, you serving people, you know them, you've all seen them. There's some person, man or woman, let's say they're overweight. And there's a few of them badgers knocking about, let me tell you. So they're overweight, medically downgraded, but they're not sat in a gymnasium all day trying to lose that weight or sat in their room on sickness, bedded down or whatever. They're still doing their job to a degree. So they might be in the stores, might be in the G1098 store signing kit out. You don't have to be fit to do that. But there's loads and loads of logistic type jobs that could be done where you don't need the same level of fitness as a frontline soldier, artillery, tanks, infantry. So there could be of use there. Will veterans go? Like I say, let me know in the comments. Up to 65. I've dipped out. I'm 66. In fact, this summer, I'll be 67. So they ain't going to get me. Well, you never know. They might push you up to 70. But it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you another thing what will be interesting. Sick parade. Imagine that, Badger. Imagine sick parade. You've now got, 95,000 veterans been called up. Sick parade would be a whole new ball game, wouldn't it? Be excused all. I'd love to see some of the biff chits that come out. Oh, mate. I mean, that's the other thing. If you start to call up people around that age group, there's a much higher chance that those people are going to have existing medical conditions. Could be respiratory, could be arthritis. There's going to be all sorts of, wonder if you get a blue badge. There'll be Land Rovers parked up and 4-tonners parked up with a blue badge sticker in the window. Incontinence pants, tenor pants for men. Maybe they'll issue them. On a more serious note though, if you're in that age group, look at the homeless veterans we've got. Maybe some of the homeless veterans will think, I'll go back in. At least I'll get 3 meals a day and heating and free medical. I ain't got to wait for a GP. I can go to the med centre's going to be packed, isn't it? Med centre's going to be absolutely packed. But that's another one, you see. There's another role there. 55s over 65, maybe in medical profession. There might be, nurses and doctors that can be called up because they're going to need them at home and wherever in the forces. So, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it because I think if I was still between that age group of 55 and 65, because I retired at 55, I left the army at 55, and I've done pretty much nothing since I left, and I'm 67. So if I was in that age bracket and I got a call up, I think I'd go. I think I'd go because there'd be loads of people I could meet up with and have a crack. I wouldn't be wearing this cap badge, I'm sure. They'll give me something like the Women's Auxiliary Balloon Corps or the 3rd Mess Tin Repair Unit. Something cushy. Nothing cushy about those units, by the way. But yeah, I'd definitely go. I would. Because I'm not going to go over there. I'm not going to go abroad and start running around in trenches, throwing grenades about. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be sat in the stores with a brew, having a chinwag and getting a bit of cash for it. And of course, the other thing is, many of those veterans in that age group will have done their 22 years and be in receipt of an armed forces pension. Now, here's the thing. What do they do about that? I'm supposing they freeze that pension when they call you up and you get paid a wage. Obviously, you'll be a private, I would imagine. I don't know what rank they'd give you. It might go on what you had. But they can't let you receive your armed forces pension and a full wage as a soldier in whatever role you're in and what rank you're in. So, I don't know. I suppose just top your pension up when you leave. But there you go. Let me know what you think. Come on, there's got to be some veterans out there that are aged 55 to 65. What would you do if you got called up? Would you go 0121 do one? Or would you go, yep, let's go, let's get back in it? I suppose as well, there's the other thing, if they call people up like that, between 55 and 65, they're going to be married. Kids might have flown the nest, etc. But how does that work? Because they ain't got enough married quarters. So where are they going to put all these married men and women between 55 and 65? How are they going to house you if you're married? Probably nothing. You'll probably just you'll be like living in the Sants mess or in the accommodation block with the blokes, and then come home on your weekends and time off and that. They won't issue a marriage. They haven't got enough. 95,000 potentially across all three services. Of course, the other role it could put us in, and I spoke about this before as well, when we used to have the old HSF, the Home Service Force, which was a type of Dad's Army, if you like. It's part of the Territorial Force. It was always ex-regulars or ex-TA that joined it, and they had a lot lower commitment, etc. And they were going to be used in the event of war. This is in Cold War days. They were going to be used to guard, do the security for key installations, power stations, docks, maybe railway places, stuff like that. They were going to be used for that, stagging on. You don't have to be fit to stag on, do you? As long as you're proficient with your weapon system, you're in a static location or driving around on a mobile patrol around a nuclear power station or whatever. I know we've got police that do that, but I could see them being used in that role. And in fact, the MPGS, that's pretty much what they do. They sort of just stag on. So there's plenty of jobs like that for us oldies. I'd be up for it, right? I'm too old. I would definitely be up for it. I'd definitely be up for that detail. Anyway, we'll see what happens. If you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, please sign up. If you don't, I might call you up. You might get called up. I might send you a Let's Tab 59 call-up paper. Anyway, stay safe, troops. Remember, let's tab.